I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Detrick. Jordan Redaelli remains on vacation, and Andrew Kuo, fortunately for our dear listeners, takes no days off.
Oh, wow, sorry. I just got back from doing 200 push-ups. I'm ripped now, but I'm sorry you can't actually see me, but I am jacked, man. I've never been in better shape in my damn life.
Are you now cock diesel?
I am cock diesel. Shaquille O'Neal doesn't want it as much as I do, man.
Wow, congrats, King.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, when you see me next in a month, it may have withered away to my natural physique, but right now, I can guarantee you I've never looked better.
Speaking of when we see each other next, for us collectively as a society, what are we going to do about haircuts?
This is not applicable to me because I've never gotten my hair cut by another person or like in a barber shop.
Wait, you cut it yourself?
My whole life.
What the hell? You
weird.
and Jordo both.
It's weird. Well, he's a king, and therefore, by proxy, I'm a king of not cutting hair by other people. I have clippers. I have adjustments on those clippers that I'm comfortable with, and I mess up all the time, but hair grows back, and I just don't care.
You also wear hats 90% of the time.
I do, which is like an unfortunate development in my adult life.
Perhaps a testament to your barber skills.
Oh, I'm not a good barber. I just cut it so it's short. If it gets too long and annoying, I just cut it. But my hat, I'm disappointed that I'm an adult hat wearer, to be honest. But I don't feel comfortable without it. It's my little Linus safety blanket.
Fortunately, you make really good hats. You've designed your own little safety net.
I have. I'm very interested in hats. Certain kinds of hats. I had to make them because I couldn't find them.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do haircut-wise if we're in here for a couple months, because my schedule was typically 4 weeks, 5 weeks to 6 weeks, and I've just concluded that cycle. So I'm like right at about where I would get a haircut.
I have to admit, you're a bit of a haircut overachiever. I have been with you many, many times when you're like, I got to go and get a haircut. I'm like, wasn't that just last week? But maybe it was 4 weeks ago. And my memory
the schedule is about 4 to 6. But as I said, I have just ended and I am now ready for a haircut, and I don't have a solution. So I might have to just go a little Encino Man, if you will.
How big does your hair get before it goes flat? Like, can you support volume up to like 8 weeks before you just go bowl cut?
We're going to find out.
Yes.
Cookies listeners, I will keep you abreast of haircut developments.
Have you been shaving and like doing like normal stuff, even though you're not leaving the house?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if you work from home, the days are kind of the same. So your schedule and routine have not been adjusted. It's the nights that are totally different for at least me, and I'm assuming you as well.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of pants do you wear at home? What are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing a vintage shirt from 1994 and a pair of brown khaki pants.
Wow, so you're ready to rock. It's business as usual at the Detrick house.
Yeah, I get up early. I put on my clothes for the day. I open up the shades. I go get coffee. Now I make it at home. I mean, I know this is really engrossing information, but yeah, as someone who works from home, you kind of can't sit around in your robe and your pajamas all day, because then you just do that every day.
I got 555 Soul on, man, right now, man. I got 555 Soul sweatpants on right now.
Tell me they're zip-off cargo shorts / cargo jeans.
There's zippers on the bottom for sure. But
shit.
They're not bad. I mean, these have survived decades, man. Shout out to Lafayette Street in 2000.
And they had the little one over there off of Bedford. It might have been like North 7th, North 8th as well.
Yeah. How does Brooklyn Industries survive and not 555 Soul?
I have no idea how Brooklyn Industries has continued to exist for all these years. I don't know who shops there. It must be just tourists. I don't really know what they sell.
They have an investor somewhere that would just like deeper pockets in 555, right?
I mean, I get how they maybe outlasted 555 Soul. I don't get how they're still around today.
Yeah, there was one in Grand Central for a second, and I was like, "What are these? Are they?" Yo, as we discussed before, hipster culture is the most marketable thing to come out from our generation.
That's true. And I guess they just became a brand that sold satchels, ultimately.
Right. Yeah, and ergonomic shoes. I don't even. I have never been inside Brooklyn Industries. I've just seen the gear.
I lived within a 3-block radius of one for probably 8 years and never went inside either.
I should have gone. Did they make those Defend Brooklyn shirts with the AKs?
I think they did.
Wow.
My culture is not a costume.
Someone made a Defend Westchester one that I thought was really good. I loved every single knockoff of that.
With the AK-47?
They did, which is you couldn't do that now. Times unchanged, man.
I don't know. They still sell the Welcome to New York City Duck Motherfucker shirts.
It's true.
They're still floating around Chinatown, Little Italy.
Buckshot Shorties wearing one right now.
So at the end of last pod, which took place yesterday, you made a promise, a solemn oath, a sacred vow that we would talk about penguins. Well, Andrew Kuo,
here we are.
Here is your opportunity. In lieu of other topics, you want to talk penguins? Let's freaking do it.
I take no penguin days off, man. Did you see that video of those penguins wandering freely in the aquarium, checking out all the installations and other fish through glass?
I did.
It was incredible, and it was one of the most charming things I've seen on the internet in recent memory. They were just like waddling around, saying hello to their feather like aquarium. I don't know what you call it.
Denizens.
Colleagues, right? And yeah, are they all interns? We'll get to that later. But I thought it was a lovely video, and they're really cute animals, and they're very complex animals, as we know. It's kind of penguin season for the last few years in the world because of awesome documentaries and movies. And the thing went viral, predictably. And one of our good buddies on Twitter posed a good question, Joel Ford, friend of the pod, and asked, is this ethical? Like, shouldn't all these animals be free? What are we celebrating? And it sent me into a little bit of a spiral. You know what I mean?
Well, the first question I have, and this video you're describing took place at Shed Aquarium, which is in Chicago, in Illinois, or outside of Chicago in Illinois. One of those two.
Biden country, as they say.
Some heartland shit. I'm going to ignore that. And I was going to ask you, before we get into the issue of imprisoning animals in general.
Right.
I thought it was cute. They were roaming around, but why did it go viral that they were able to sort of experience where they live through the lens of a human? Was that why we liked it? Was it that we just saw penguins in a humanistic environment of stairs and glass and kiosks? Is that what the appeal was of the video?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And also penguin season, like, they're really cool to look at and walk around because they interact with each other. They're really smart. They look at things. They look back at the camera. There was kind of an engagement there that you don't get like with a snake or another fish, Right.
So it was penguins interacting with each other in their unique way in a human environment. It would be like, look, there's a bunch of penguins on the stoop. Like, that's wild. What are they doing?
Acting humanistic, like taking a gander, a look at the installations. They were like going from one aquarium tank to another and just like checking it out.
I think we've gained a greater appreciation, or at least are acknowledging that animals are more emotionally and intellectually complex than we have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Is it cruel not only to keep animals caged up in aquariums and zoos? That's like a larger question. But is it cruel to have them experience something from a perspective that they have never seen? Would that be too mind-blowing? Like, is it destroying the illusion of where they live in this tank and how they interact by being like, guess what? You're actually part of this entire thing that you are now, like, your penguin head is fucking blown by.
Assuming that penguins can reason with that, and there's, I think, debates there. I think what we think is intelligence is us projecting our own feelings onto animals, but they might be thinking that, and let's just assume they are. I've had this issue because, as you know, I always have 2 cats around in my house, and they're not allowed outside. They're usually like found in the back of some establishment somewhere. Like, I just kind of see what rescue zones there are and just like pick up one if I have room. And I'm not a hoarder. I only have 2 cats, but sometimes I'll open the window for them and they'll react in a way that is different than the way they usually do. And they're kind of like feral instincts kick in and they look outside, their eyes dart back and forth. And for the whole day, they'll be kind of different animals in my house. And it made me wonder if I was doing the right thing by like adopting these cats, feeding them, and not letting them go outside. Like, was that unfair to them? I always wish they can talk to me. If they were like, hey, thanks for everything, but like, we'd love to be free. I'm like, okay, totally. But from what I can tell, they like really enjoy sleeping on my lap and playing with their toys and getting fed twice a day, Like, I think it's okay to put penguins in that situation.
Would the equivalent of penguins seeing behind the glass, so to speak,
The glass curtain.
in a literal sense,
Yep.
would that be like extraterrestrials beaming you up, and you're sitting in their insane spacecraft, and they're up there like pressing buttons and creating the weather,
and you're like, I'm Kyrie Irving.
And you get and you get beamed back down, and you're like, what happened? You're like, dude.
Yeah. Bro.
So there's someone there and he's just like throwing fish into the tank. There's another tank over there and it's got a shark in it. A shark. Like a shark.
Yeah.
Like, I saw it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think of a zillion things. That video of the raccoon cleaning the cotton candy? And it disappears in the water. He's so excited to eat it, and it disappears in the water because he's rinsing it clean. And he's like, what happened? I was just going to eat this unbelievably delicious high fructose corn syrup, and it's just gone. And it was him learning about, like, physics on camera, and him being like, is that going to happen again? What just happened? Does everything disappear when I wash it? Because nothing has before. And it was such an interesting moment to see an animal figure that out. And personally, I find it like kind of heartbreaking when animals have to figure out like the bummer parts of the world, being like, oh, I'm not free. I'm in a cage.
I'm on a conveyor belt.
Yeah. It sucks. And like, we've talked about the ethics of eating meat endlessly, but like, I think my brain is changing, at least. I feel super bummed sometimes. And I think these penguins have an amazing life, and I think they are taken care of well by this establishment, but we've seen the opposite in other zoos.
This is a natural segue into our lives today. Mm-hmm. In captivity, behind glass, behind bars. And
what do you
it
think,
may become more so like that. And speaking about how the brain adapts, I think we're going to be experiencing some really chaotic, bonkers shit. Because people are already bored and disillusioned and online. And we've seen how that's spiraled off into things like QAnon. And last night, there was the makings of yet another, similar to Pizzagate, theory, and you alerted it to me.
I think I texted you at like 1:30 a.m. I was like, Oprah, dude! Exclamation point, exclamation point. And you were probably doing something like reading a novel or like exercising. And I was like, Oprah is a sex trafficker and the feds just raided her mansion? And I was just following this thing because it was the #1 trending thing. And everyone was spreading this story with no source. And it obviously was far-fetched, but it really like took hold of my imagination for like 15-20 minutes where I was just like devouring all these jokes. And
so what was the exact theory? It was that Oprah had tunnels under her house. There was sex trafficking going on. It was tied to Weinstein.
Weinstein snitched. Right.
To me, it sounds exactly like Pizzagate, just with Oprah swapped in for Comet Pizza or whatever it was. Comet Pool, Comet Pizza, Comet Ping Pong.
It's so funny. I think Pizzagate started just because his name was John D. Podesta. Because when you listen to these Pizzagaters, they're like, think about it. Read his name slower. Separate the letters. And I'm like, yes, the prefix is the same. Doesn't that mean foot in Latin? I'm not sure. But like, does it? I don't even know.
The real problem here is that we're talking about a limited scope of creativity where they are incredibly creative.
Yeah,
they're incredibly creative. It's Oprah, but they're relying on the same boring tropes. Tunnels, sex trafficking. Like, you couldn't do better. It's still caves beneath her house. Like, come on, man.
And to the internet,
is Epstein involved? And
right? Is Tupac alive? Like, I think this, to Twitter's credit, this turned into jokes immediately, and there was no like thunderous QAnon kind of political talking point. There was just a lot of jokes, and people were talking about music and TV and rap and the NBA. All of a sudden, we're just like, this is funny. This can't be true. And I thought it was kind of like a subtly like charming moment when we all got together and we're like just making jokes, but every fifth comment was like, this is definitely not true, right? I'm like, yeah, of course it's not true. And Oprah actually woke up and was like, I heard I was trending. I'm sleeping, guys. Take care of yourself. But that was the...
Well, that's exactly what you would tweet.
Exactly.
If you were doing sex trafficking from hidden tunnels beneath your house and it had just been raided and you had just been arrested.
If Oprah was still alive. If this isn't an Oprah hologram, like, why isn't she running for president?
Honestly, like, Jeffrey must find all this hilarious.
Right.
He talked to me the other day. He's bored as shit. But he's like, look, now you guys know what I'm dealing with all the time.
Yeah, Juice WRLD is just like, I don't buy it. But
so you're saying Oprah definitely did it.
That's right. But it got me to thinking immediately, like, what is the easiest way to create a reaction like that? You have to have Schadenfreude to the max, right? So it has to be Oprah or someone famous that you don't like, Meryl Streep, something like that. That's so delicious. Be like, oh, off their highfalutin, soapbox. They're just like one of us. Like, you have to have that element.
See, I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's more that they're not like us. They are lizard people. They're part of
true.
a larger elite that's making decisions, and they're so far above our pay grade that there's something that separates us. She's wealthy and has billions of dollars, and I have nothing, and I don't know anyone, and she's this celebrity. What's the difference here? It's because she's evil, and she's involved in an evil sex trafficking ring, and that explains why people with wealth and power are in one position, and I, a lowly non-sex trafficker,
right,
am not.
I know, and like things that really get us going are like tunnels, like perverts, money, like all those things that we just gobble up as entertainment, kind of, And I'm not saying like Oprah is a person too. I'm like, she's kind of represents something different.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's also that these kind of ideas have been going around forever, and sometimes they took the form of like anti-Semitism. You know, it's the elders of Zion who are controlling the globe, and you still see that today, all over the place. You know, the conservative movement and right-wing politics, when they say George Soros and they put, you know, parentheses around someone's name, they are making obvious anti-Semitic references to Jewish people and the Jewish media, like running the globe.
For sure.
And like we know what they're talking about. And in this form, it's the rich and powerful.
Yeah.
And it may not be a religion, but it's someone else who's a higher power. And, you know, I think some of this is addressed in a new HBO show that came out. I think the premiere episode was on Monday. It's called The Plot Against America. And it's based on the Philip Roth novel of the same name. I read that novel, I want to say 6-7 years ago. So I remember generally what happened, but not the specifics.
Wait, just a quick aside. How many books a year do you read?
Who reads?
You read. Come on. I've seen your bookshelf. You're like, that's a good book. You can borrow it. I'm like, I don't read.
Dude, you're not going to try to expose me as a reader. I do not read.
I had to shoot my shot, man.
I can barely string a sentence together.
Well, listen to you reading Philip Roth.
Years ago. I don't read.
Okay, I had to shoot my shot. Shoot. Go ahead.
I respect it. So anyway, I mean, I basically skimmed it. You can't even say I read the book.
The cover was nice.
It had a swastika on it or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it does. Pretty sure it does.
Right.
But anyway, this is a David Simon series, you know, famous for The Wire, which is often compared to NBA basketball players. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Idris Elba. Get well soon.
True. Stringer Bell, who's often compared to most players in the NBA.
I'm Stringer Bell. No, I'm Stringer Bell.
Also, Treme. Maybe he did Generation Kill, The Corner.
Yep.
And his recent one, The Deuce.
The Deuce.
So this is about Okay, so the premise of it is that Charles Lindbergh, who is a Nazi sympathizer, runs for president in the United States. And his agenda is keeping us out of World War II. So he will not join the Allies against the Nazis. And the first episode starts out with Philip Roth as a character in the town that he grew up in as a boy. And you're seeing the rise of anti-Semitism and Charles Lindbergh blaming Jewish people and attempting to win the presidency. So that's episode 1 and introduces some other characters. I know you watched it as well. What was your takeaway after one ep?
Just on the surface, the show itself, I found to be very brown. It was a lot of paperboy hats, a lot of things that like I can't relate to, but maybe boomers would very much relate to. And I think David Simon, and through the lens of Philip Roth, is always trying to describe, you know, his work feels personal to me, and they're hit or miss. And to me, the first episode was fine. The specter of Nazi stuff is always interesting to me because I find them still terrifying decades later, but not that much later. Like, we still see Nazis in our lives who are alive and young, and I find their moral positions terrifying and fascinating. So the specter of this idea in this show worked well enough for me to be interested.
I'm kind of with you on not being a huge fan of period pieces, though. I felt like that's what you were saying.
Yeah, for sure. I can't relate to that stuff.
And I know that they're not trying to do it because they're trying to, I don't know, there's something about period pieces, whereas you said with the hats and the slang and like every subject that comes up, like, you look like, I don't know, you know, Duke Snyder over there. And you're just like, all right, I get it.
Duke of Flatbush. Nice. Nice.
But yeah, like they have to create this legitimate environment, and it always feels like they're trying too hard.
Yeah, and it's that specific time period that I'm tired of. I really loved Boardwalk Empire. I thought that was a cool show. But like I think I was watching and my wife was just like, "Doesn't HBO always have one of these shows on at all times?" I'm like, "Kinda. It feels like that, doesn't it?" Cuz I love like like I love Elizabeth, I love The Crown. I love all that stuff. But this specific time period just kind of doesn't work as well for me.
It does feel very familiar, and I don't think there's a way around it if you're going to set a story in that period of time. Like, it has to look like that to some degree. That's what people are going to wear, and those are the cars they were going to drive. But it always feels, and maybe this is a David Simon thing, because I couldn't really watch The Deuce either for a lot of those same reasons. It felt like too much of, hey, look where we are. It's the 1970s. We're talking about the 1970s. We're dressing like the 1970s. Look at all the cars.
Hey, big guy, you're busting my balls over here. Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing becomes a show about the 70s, or about, in this case, the 40s. It just feels like it's about that and not the larger subject.
Yeah, it gets lost in its production, and it gets lost in the framing and not the story. And this is my complaint about so many things. But there was not a character in there that I liked. I'm like, who is the one we're rooting for? The kid? No spoilers. Winona Ryder's in it. There's like, you can see like raging against the machine happening, but I'm not sure which characters are protagonists. It kind of had my head spinning a little bit, where it was just a presentation of the framework of what's going to happen. I'm like, can we just get to someone I can relate to?
I agree with that. The characters were all sympathetic, but there was no one that I specifically was rooting for or really loved. And this is based mostly around a nuclear family with some offshoots. So you have the mother, the father, 2 kids, and then also have, I believe it was 2 kids, and then you also have a cousin and a sister of one of the parents. Yeah. So it's a nuclear family plus, and they really kind of try to create a plot line for most of them. So yeah, maybe it was a lot of just sort of exposition that we watched in episode 1.
Yeah.
I'm interested in episode 2, but there's something about a slow burning show that's set in that era that doesn't quite grasp me.
Right. But already more palpable than Treme or The Deuce or Generation Kill. It's already more engaging. And maybe because, I think I really love the premise of an alternate universe. I'm still into the multiverse thing. And I liked Man in the High Castle. I think both did not like The Hunters. Which I had to aesthetically just didn't work for me, but the idea piqued my interest. It's funny, like I was talking to a buddy of mine about the generation before us and their fascination with Nazis, and how can you blame them? It was a part of their lives in a huge way, and even to bring up that word gets a little bit of a pause, but they lived through an era where Nazi culture was a part of the news, and a big part of the news. And, a lot of artists and a lot of musicians had a little bit of curiosity or referencing to that. And, it's easy for the generation after them to be like, whoa, what are you talking? Are you sympathizing with them? Do you, like, if you collect memorabilia, like, are you a bad person? I'm like, it's really hard to separate white from off-white here, because I always say that. I don't know why I say that, but because it was a part of their lives, man. It wasn't this idea in a story. It was like, I lived through World War II. But
these people are silent generation and older. These aren't even boomers we're talking about.
But they were kids.
But I mean, the boomers were literally the generation that was born when people got back from the war.
Yeah. True.
So most of them have no cognizance of it whatsoever. It's silent generation, greatest generation, whatever those ones.
Or very cognizant, right? Like if you're, let's say your father was in the war or died in the war, like this is a big part of your life, right?
No doubt. They were scarred by it, I'm sure. I'm only talking about experiencing it firsthand. They absolutely
True.
experienced it secondhand.
True.
I'm more saying that there's something about Nazis because they are evil incarnate and they existed that, and we all know who they are, that they have an enduring fascination. And whether it's from Quentin Tarantino or it's The Man in the High Castle or it's The Hunters, they're always going to be part of pop culture in a very weird way. And these recent shows we're talking about, I think they show the difficulty of talking about Nazism and fascism and hatred and cruelty at a time when our reality and our government and our president and his advisors are enthusiastic advocates of a very similar orthodoxy. When Stephen Miller is a white supremacist and is controlling the policy at our borders, when we have actual Nazis, or neo-Nazis with actual Nazi flags marching in Charlottesville and chanting, "You will not replace us," it's hard to do a subtle Nazi show. And that's, to me, a bit like what we saw with The Plot Against America. It's like, ooh, the rise of Nazism. That is ominous. And you're like, man, we're here.
Yeah.
We're seeing this in our real lives on a day-to-day basis. And you're being like, look, it's the American Bund League over there swilling from their pints and yelling at someone in a car. And you're like, that's horrifying. Like, it is. But we're actually also living in a government that's worse than the one that you were almost proposing could happen.
I agree with you. Just for debate's sake, remember when we were talking about Hunters? Your criticism was it was too graphic and too opaque. Where's the middle for you?
I don't know. And I think that's the real challenge. I 100% agree that this is on one side of that spectrum and Hunters is the other. Let's go all the way. Let's make it that the Nazis are part of the U.S. government and they're going to take over the country and it's going to be uber violent and it's going to be a revenge fantasy. And it ended up being gross. And then this one ends up feeling, at least through episode 1, so tempered that it doesn't even catch up with their own reality. I don't know where the middle ground is. I think it's very difficult to harness that Nazi trope in 2020 to make convincingly entertaining Nazi content.
I mean, I think one of the most successful movies on this topic is like Starship Troopers, and they were just bugs, or vice versa. Like, who is the baddie, right? Hans, are we the baddies? And, Paul Verhoeven talks about that overtly. And there's artists that I really, really love who discuss this, like Gerhard Richter, his whole Robert Olin. It's something I like the way David Simon and Roth did this, because I think I love monster movies where you don't see the monsters till the end, or at all. I really prefer the specter, the menace of something, and we just never need to see it. Personally, I find that to be really effective. Even Sixers superfan M. Night Shyamalan kind of dabbled in this, I believe in The Village. I thought that was a really good way to talk about something pretty big.
I think if this show had come out in the Obama era, you could look at the ominousness of the rise of Nazism and say, whoa, that could have happened here. It could still happen here. When you watch it now, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, we are never going to not have Nazis as characters in drama, comedy, thrillers, sci-fi, whatever it is. It goes back to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, I was gonna bring this up because I think it is I believe Simon produced this show and committed to the show because of the White House and because of our policy, and it made me think of the way we cycle through villains in movies. And I think of the faceless people who get shot down in the Middle East. It's they all have guns that they don't know how to use, and you just mow them down, and that's fine. Commando, Die Hard. For a while, it was the Japanese threat to our country, and like the Yakuza was the enemy. And it's interesting to see what we're scared of or what we think we're scared of being shown to us in these movies, whether it be an invasion. Usually it's an invasion. American movies are about invasion.
And for the most part, when we're talking about enemies that are viewed as less than human in the way that they can be killed indiscriminately, that's also what makes Nazis a compelling enemy.
Yeah.
It's not like, yeah, they're the British or they're Australians. Like, the Nazis fit the category of they should all die and that's fine.
Yeah.
But more disturbingly, to the point you were saying, that's typically where we use non-white people.
I know. I'm psyched that they're white. Like, as an Asian guy, I'm like, oh, cool. The villains are white. I'm down.
No, for real.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about something like the Rambo movies, like First Blood, it's like, okay, here he is killing like a zillion Asian people.
Yeah. I mean, the Vietnam movies were big for 10 years, and now we don't get any of them. Like, the trends of these things and what our country is scared of, you could just go through like the history of big movie studio productions.
Why do you think that is? That Vietnam movies suddenly subsided? Because as you were talking about, you know, we had Platoon, we had all these films, even like Dead Presidents. Like, it was a large component, and maybe it was because filmmakers were either of that age or had parents who were that age or just familiar with it because as kids they saw it. Yeah. But it is kind of remarkable. I can't think of recent Vietnam movies that have not at least had sort of a thread of like disillusionment or something to them.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about a certain age, but there was a few movies, I forget the Michael J. Fox one, forgot what it was called, but Hamburger Hill, where it kind of threw the question of like ethics into it. Because with the story of Vietnam, and maybe this is why I think we don't see them as much, we're not really sure who the good guys or bad guys were. Like, we know why we went there to fight, but were we ethical in that choice? And I think as time went on, the decades passed, I think people started to question that as a black and white war. And it's really hard to create like protagonists out of that.
And now I believe when movies shift setting to show a character's background in Vietnam, it is almost with that sense of moral ambiguity built in. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be like, wow, this is fucked up. And it made them think about America differently.
Yeah. Isn't it wild? Like, I am kind of sure why World War I happened, but not that sure. Like, there was Archduke Ferdinand, like
your man and favorite band.
Right. Well,
Franz Ferdinand.
Well, I was joking, like, it's funny because that is such like a distinct moment in time and such like a troubled idea. And then decades later, it's just like, oh, we're just going to write music and have like socialist imagery and call ourselves Franz Ferdinand. And everyone's like, cool. It's like, oh, your band is called New Order? Awesome. It's like, what does that mean? Like, don't ask. It's complicated. Art is complicated. We're called Joy Division.
Just listen to the song Take Me Out.
Right. And it's weird how we cycle through it. And I don't know how like 20-year-olds or Zoomers see these shows and see like villains like Nazis. And I think it's easy to identify them as like they're bad people.
Maybe because the amount of people who were forced to serve in either of the Gulf Wars was not mandatory. There was not a draft. It was people who were soldiers who had committed to it and were not filmmakers. Other than like Generation Kill and
Three Kings.
That's
a good movie.
And then the recent one about the bomb diffuser that won Best Picture, right?
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, I'm blanking.
But it has not been fodder for a lot of films or entertainment in the way that Hurt Locker, in the way that other wars, specifically World War II and World War I, people love making movies about, even now.
Mm-hmm. I really loved The Pacific and Band of Brothers. I thought those were incredible series. I'd rewatch them this week, but I've just seen them too many times. Those are incredible. I don't have a war fascination at all. I think I try to watch as little of it as I can. Like I do this thing where I realize I'm watching something so dark for too long and I have to watch a comedy, but I won't read a book.
No.
Never, because I'd rather watch more awful things than read a book.
I'm with you on World War One, however. I don't really get what it was about other than a bunch of like internecine spider webs of treaties that forced everyone to fight.
Serbia was a huge part of it, Yugoslavia. It's a part of the world I'm
Pathetic.
not educated about, which I find to be annoying. Like, I should know, man.
It's a little like Mobb Deep's Shook Ones Part 1.
Well, we know about that.
No, I mean, you know about it, like you've heard it.
Yeah, but we're not.
But it's
right,
not
right.
it's not the banger.
This is true.
It's not Part 2. More World Wars.
Right.
You know, like that was the heater. That was the hit.
That was the hit. No, you're right. Like, how well do you know the geniuses first? Or the RZAs, Prince Rakim, right?
Right, and
love you,
then
Prince
Liquid
Rakim.
Swords drops.
Yeah, right. They get all Staten Island and there's bees everywhere all of a sudden.
Oh man, are you ready to shelter in place? It's a perfect time to brush up on The Geniuses' first album, Shook Ones Part 1, and World War One.
I mean, I did Wikipedia World War One the other day just because I had to find out, man. Like, there's
Who won?
Ooh, who wanted it most? Do you say? Like the Korean War, I kind of know about. Like I'm so ignorant. When I was younger, I was like, "Is this about World War One, World War, or the Korean War?" Like, it's hard for me to tell. I'm like, oh, Asians, right? It's the Korean War.
When was the Spanish War?
This is very confusing to me.
Who was even in that? Was that us against Canada? I don't know.
Yo, we're
I'm
a
not
travesty of knowledge.
Well, look, I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna tell our listeners, I'm not gonna read and find out.
But what if it's on a screen?
Now you're talking.
Well, I can't wait till it'll be like the little header on the World War One Wikipedia page being like, "This is a 4-minute read." I'm like, I got 4 minutes for this.
I can do it.
Yeah.
So what is going to be your first, other than getting more cock diesel than you already are, what are your
Huge.
goals for the inevitable droppage of shelter in place?
What are my goals?
It's going to happen, right?
Yeah, probably today. Probably by this time the pod hits. Because,
Shelter in place just hits different.
but it's nebulous, right? Because they still want you to buy groceries because they cannot handle distributing food at all. And if you have to go to the doctor, you can go to the doctor. Everything else, no.
So the real difference is that they're going to close down all stores, or is it that you can only, you're right, you know, like if I wanted to go buy a sofa today, I could still probably get one somewhere. If I was like,
Maybe.
I need a sofa.
Maybe. Possibly.
I mean, are they going to shut down liquor stores? They
Yo.
can't. They can't. That's wild.
Well, now they're allowing restaurants to deliver liquor, so
But they're going to shut down those restaurants too, right? If you're going
If
to
it's-
do shelter in place, they're not
yeah.
going to allow
Workers.
people to go to work and then deliver food.
Yo, this is my not so hot take. The economic ramifications of this virus are going to be worse than the virus itself. It's a big problem, man. And
Well,
not,
in a best case scenario,
yeah, I don't know
the
what the
best
case,
we can
yeah.
do, the economics will be worse than the virus.
But it's huge, man. Like these guys have to take care of this. Like, we still don't have those tests, man. Where are these Jack Ma tests? Where are these 1.9? Like, we just need information. All the people I know in New York that I've talked to are just like, what have you heard? What do you know? I don't know.
I think that's why, because there's no information at all, my response has been to like take my temperature twice a day.
Oh, interesting.
That's generally my thing. I'm like, you know what I can control? Taking my temperature.
Would you start maybe 3 or 4 burner accounts in your defense, no matter what happens? Sort of like a Nets legend, Kevin Durant.
Poor Katie.
Sucks.
So 4 members of the Brooklyn Nets were announced as having contracted coronavirus. One of them was Kevin Durant, who wasn't even active this year. So whether he got it elsewhere or he got it from being around his teammates, no one's really sure. But the scary part about the situation was that I believe, according to KD, that he and 3 of the 4 had no apparent symptoms at all. They felt fine. They were walking around. They were interacting. And yet they were carriers of coronavirus and conceivably passed it along to other people.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's the issue here, right? Is right. That if everyone who just immediately felt shitty would go home, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Right. The problem is that people don't know they have it and feel fine and yet are passing it along. That's the whole scary part.
We're just guessing, and I am not even the smartest person in the room ever. But if we're relying on people to deduce like what to do based off of hunches, like we've seen NBA Twitter, like we're not equipped for this. Like,
well, that's why I'm taking my temperature, because it's a stat.
Yeah.
It's not like, how do I feel? I'm like, I don't know. I think I coughed a little while ago.
Yeah.
I feel kind of warm. Do I feel like my limbs are heavy? How am I breathing? I'm like, let me take my temperature. I'm like, okay, it's like 97.5 degrees. Cool.
My favorite headline was Liam Gallagher thought he had the Rona, and it turns out his house was just too hot. And he's like, it's a very confusing time.
That's what I mean.
I mean, he's right, you know?
Yeah, I think LP tweeted something
yeah.
about how he thought he had it because he was really stoned.
I mean, I hope we can laugh about it, but let's laugh through it. You know, like, I'm not immune to a good Rona joke, but shout out to LP. That's funny. Am I hungover or do I have the Rona?
It could be either.
Yeah. I have not been able to. The last time I had a drink was I had a spritz with you at like 5:00, like 2 weeks ago. That was the last drink I had, man. I'm staring.
Really? You haven't been home drinking?
I hate home drinking. I feel trapped.
I have never liked home drinking.
Yeah.
But my hand has been forced.
You're just but a man, Ben.
Well, it was funny because it was like a New York Times article, op-ed, whatever, that was like, by the way, it's fine to drink from home now. Who wrote this? Who's alcohol?
Oh, how dare you? These guys have opinions about drinking at home. Well, I do, and I hate it because I feel trapped. I feel jittery, and I would just assume. But I've lost the love of drinking in the last 2 years. I love having beers with you and our buddies out there at our favorite bars. But that's the only time I drink.
Again, I've never been enthusiastic about drinking, at home. But in lieu of any other option, having a little wine with dinner.
That's nice.
Pouring yourself 7, martinis, like
martini 2s,
martini 7s, just the little things to make it feel normal.
Yeah. A month ago,
and less like prison.
A month ago, I bought a case of White Claws because I really enjoy White Claw. I'm just staring at them. I'm staring at Randall's, man. They're just there, sitting there undrank, cold in the fridge. But I'm just not interested. I'm interested in getting ripped, Ben.
That's true. You are getting diesel.
Can you work out drunk?
No.
But can you work out buzzed? I mean, throw me a bone over here. Like, can you take a shot of like something that is efficient, like Ben Simmons, and get on the treadmill and just rock a workout out?
Well, at the Cookies Hoops Classic, there was a lot of drinking between games. Yeah. And one of our friends, who I will not name, I think he had 2 or 3 beers, IPAs, before game 1.
Wow, what a legend.
Like, respect.
Did he ball out?
I don't think so.
He was like, I feel bloated. I'm hungry for pizza now.
I know they were upset by an inferior team.
They got sober. Lucky. Small sample size, bro. Yeah, we encouraged that at the Classic. We wanted to buck the trend of sober basketball.
So, being that we're now on, for the most part, lockdown, have you noticed people's social media habits changing? Because we spoke a little bit earlier about Oprah and conspiracy theories and Pizzagate. And as I mentioned, I think we're going to see people really losing their mind to a degree that it's already been happening. People are too online, but now it's isolation and online and anxiety.
We've eaten all the bad food already. All the guilty pleasures have been consumed. Now is like we're in the middle of it, and
That's what I'm worried about, because we're not in the middle of it.
Beginning.
We're at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And people are already talking about tunnels beneath Oprah's house.
Yeah.
We are on the verge of insanity unlike anything we've ever seen.
What if I just get to your house really quickly and we just have a quick party? You haven't talked to anybody, right? And then I'll just scurry back home like, I'm okay, you're okay.
Well, that would be better than people going nuts on the internet. I'm not talking about in-person stuff. I'm saying the madness that's going to unfold. People are going on IG Live. That's how crazy it's gotten.
IG Live is only like a week old, right?
No, it's been around forever and just no one used it.
Oh, IG Live. I thought you meant Twitter Live.
No, IG Live has been around for a while. No one really uses it. And I was just looking at my phone and just kept popping up, so-and-so is live, so-and-so is live. And I'm like, oh, people are already losing their shit.
Yeah. I'm down for it, but as everything is in basketball, in movies, there's only like a handful of people I usually care about. But I'm willing to find out. I'll check it out.
Well, and yeah, I don't even know what the decorum is. I guess it's just you're live streaming and people are asking you questions and you're responding or whatever. I'm not that interested in it. But I would say that I get why people would want to do it. It's a way to interact with people, especially if you're someone who's a member of the media and you no longer have an outlet to do that in your day job. So it does have uses in that aspect. I do wonder how this hiatus, however long it lasts, will affect our ingestion of entertainment going forward. There's a lot of things that we've changed immediately out of necessity that now feel very normal, and that why would we go back? And one of those was some Hollywood film studios saying we're just going to release movies directly to the public. Like you can go pay-per-view on a new movie. Are we going to go back on that once we've started?
No, this is a thing we've been waiting for forever. It's sort of like Silver having ideas about the NBA schedule, being like, now's the time. Nothing's going to be ever the same as you know it, you know? And I think the movies you're talking about, I think there's Emma, there's Onward. I think that was a movie. Invisible Man, which I'm contemplating buying, and something else. But they're releasing these movies available to us for $20 for 48 hours, and we can watch it as many times within 48 hours. And
because everyone loves watching a movie 5 times within 24 hours.
Well, a lot of times, sometimes I'll watch through the corner of my eye once and be like, all right, I'm going to watch this.
Or you have to pause it and you pick it up later. I get it.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of like as many times as you want.
Yeah. And I think the price tag had people pushing back on it a little bit. It's $20. But if you break down the money it takes to like make an album, make a movie, all these things, they're all different. And I believe the Invisible Man, they're like, we're going to take a hit on this or we might make a ton of money. But $20 is the price. It's like sneakers shouldn't cost $400.
But why is there pushback against that? Because a movie in a Manhattan theater costs $20, costs $18.
But you're at home. It's different. Like people love to count other people's money. And if you're paying rent at home and making your own food, that's not equatable. Like, this is not a social thing. It's like, oh, I could watch it on the screen that I have. Bullshit, $20. I want to pay $5 because we're used to paying $5.
I mean, I get pay-per-view costing $5 after 6 months. Mm-hmm. But I have no objection to charging a movie theater price for you to watch it at home, especially if it's like all right, there's 3 of us here. There's 5 of us, whatever. The whole family, we're going to watch this movie.
Yeah.
That's significantly cheaper. The only real grievance is if it's like one person. And they're like, well, I'm paying the same price, but all I'm getting is to watch it on my dinky little TV. If you're a family, you're like, well, okay, this is the new movie. My kids want to watch it. We're each paying $5 a pop.
Isolation shaming, man. There's single people out there who have to pay $20 for Onward. But I kind of enjoy the framing of media as luxury items, as an idea, not an actuality. Because, like, you know, we pay more money for iPhones than we do for droids. And we pay more money for certain brands of clothing than we others. And they're the same thing, but we want them. So what if media kind of dabbles in that? Being like,
I have no problem with that. If
Yeah.
people want to put out a book because other humans read,
who? Name one.
I don't know, man. But that idea of like, this is an article, you want to have this, it's expensive. I think that's fine, you know. And oh, you want to watch this new movie that we put this work into and we put together, and you want to watch it at home? Well, then it costs a certain amount, and if you don't want to pay that, you can just wait a little while.
Right.
I don't have any moral compunctions against that.
Yeah, and I've always been accused of being too capitalistic, but like this will just work itself out, because in this vacuum of movies that cost $20, if the numbers are bad, they're going to lower the prices moving forward. If they make money, they're going to go up. You know, like, this is just a response to data. And, you know, you can bootleg it, you can steal it, you can do all these things, but that runs its own set of risks that are very, very small. But
I find it very hard to believe that other film studios will not follow suit over the next couple weeks or month.
yeah, I mean, Krasinski pulled The Quiet Place 2 because of the coronavirus. I wonder if he regrets that. And I wonder if he's like, ooh, I should have been on this. Maybe next week he's like, you can have this for $20 too.
I just think that anyone who is slated to come out in the next couple weeks is thinking, what makes more sense? Do we wait 4 months to put this out? Or do we say we have a captive audience, people who want to watch stuff, and people aren't really going to theaters that much anyway? I think this calculus is going to be embraced by a lot of people.
Yep.
Because as far as my understanding, and my understanding is trash, is that movie studios might have already wanted to do this,
Oh, yeah.
if not for theaters themselves. And now that theaters are not in play in this current environment, perhaps the calculus changes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just waiting for technology to get to the point where me and you can be like, yo, you want to go courtside to the finals in VR? It's $40 for a token. Be like, yeah, let's do it. And we can like clown around, watch the game from courtside. Be like, I can't really afford $40. Let's go like mid-range for 15. I'm like, all right, let's do it. It's a better view anyway. You know, like it's inevitable, right?
Well, they're already selling that. I have not experienced it. I don't know how good it is, but the NBA already does a VR courtside like product.
How much does it cost?
I forget. We'd have to look it up. I remember seeing that it was something that existed.
Yeah.
But you are 100% correct that is the new front line of watching games.
Yeah.
You can watch it on television, or you and your friends can go there and have avatars of yourselves, or even like scans of yourselves, you with your friends in your own headphones with crowd noise, talking to each other, watching the game from the sidelines, and it looking like a real game. Like, that's clearly going to happen, whether it's in 2 years or 7 years or 20 years. If NBA is going, that will absolutely be a viable option.
Imagine that, like, we're going to have a cookies room where, like, yeah, we'll watch a game with you guys for, like, 50 cents, you know? And if, like, we'll cap it at 50 people. And you can, like, talk shit to us, being like, is this your king now? I'm like, okay, I'll take that. You know, like, it's going to be really awesome and really strange. And we, to your point, we might look back at these few months as a turning point.
The halftime act, new band, Coronavirus.
Is it rap rock? Is it new metal?
It's definitely new metal.
Biohazard. making a comeback. Yeah.
Oh, but the movie aspect of going direct to consumer because of the current situation is mirrored in a lot of other ways, right? Where police officers are being told, don't bring people in for small offenses. Airlines are now, or I guess it would be, the security is now saying, oh, it's okay to bring in bottles that are more than 4 ounces. Up to 16 or 14 or 12 is fine now.
Yeah.
We're seeing the removal of these arbitrary, capricious, often cruel ways that we have been treating each other because of coronavirus. And just as I'm not sure that we're going to return after this is over to all movies start in the theaters, I don't know that we can go back on a lot of this kind of behavior, whether it's discussion of UBI, universal health care, draconian police policies. It feels like we may have turned a switch that's going to be tough to reel back.
Are you saying we're going to have to pod every day for the rest of time?
I think that's where this is headed.
No, but you're totally right. I think it takes something like a stop, an intermission for us to kind of look around and be like, oh, we've been doing this dumb stuff wrong this whole time. Like, let's stop punishing people for these stupid things and like be smarter about it, or just like reset. I think if we're lucky enough to reset from this as a society, like I hope we make these certain corrections, being like, well, you let us go during a coronavirus, so how come you're coming down on me now? It's like, true.
Right. And I think we've seen expose a lot of things that we knew were unnecessarily cruel and things that did not make sense.
Like workers' policy, the healthcare system.
All these things. But they were the way that they were, and they felt intractable.
It's like, well, we just can't change it because the NCAA has been this way forever.
We would love to give you universal health care, but we just don't have the money. And like, all right, here's $3 trillion going into the economy. Like, you did that like on a whim.
Yeah.
You could have just gotten rid of student debt. You could have just done it with like a stroke of the pen, and no one would have even cared.
Yeah. UBI is ridiculous. What in the world? Okay, everyone has it.
Yeah, these ideas that seemed unfathomable just because, not for any real reason, now are viewed as completely malleable and extraneous to getting things done. So wait, we were taking people off the street for stealing like a burger and putting him in jail for 3 days? What the fuck is wrong with you? Stop doing that. Give him a ticket. Send him on his way.
I know. It's just like, oh, this player doesn't want to shoot threes. Trade him. Get him out of the league. It's like, oh man, he's a blessing. He's great. Let's just forget about that.
And we're seeing like Macron in France. They're like, oh, we're going to give people rent, utilities, etc. And we're like, wait, governments can just do that?
I know. You can do that?
Why aren't we getting that? Oh, well, they're French. They have it all. Like, excuse me? Excusez-moi? Wait, we're going to have to pay our rent and the French don't?
Yeah, man.
Why is that?
It's so funny.
Well, they are a vastly superior nation.
I always think about stuff that humans can control and humans can't control. It's like, sorry, those are the rules. I'm like, are they? Like,
Yeah. It's like, no, we made these.
Yeah. We made government and they're all different. We made the prison system and they're all different. Like, we can change all of these things.
It's like people standing, back in the day, right? When Kevin Garnett would take long twos because like he didn't shoot threes. Mm-hmm. Like, man, we just made that line.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
You can stand wherever, dude. Like, you can get behind it if you like. It's it's arbitrary.
I'm old enough to remember Scottie Pippen feasting on a shortened 3-point line.
Like with the Rockets a couple years ago, Ryan Anderson would line up to shoot threes like 7 feet behind the NBA line.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, the line's arbitrary.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it counts the same here. 3, if you're at the line, we just rather shoot it from even further away.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the vacuum of hoops, but I think Silver is like a really awesome commissioner, and he's going to flip this a little bit. I'm really looking I'm looking at draft reform. You know I'm obsessed with the draft. But draft reform, I think, would help the league and its product. Okay, so
What do you mean by that?
uh,
Because the league has, in its own estimation, attempted to do draft reform over the
Yeah.
last few years by leveling the odds of the lottery,
It's
which
too-
was intended to have less flagrant tanking and less tanking from day one. Less teams who essentially say, we're going to be terrible this year because there's less advantage to being incredibly awful. Now it's just fine to be bad.
the flattening of the odds was nothing. That was optic. Teams are still tanking as they do. It was just a thing to like make certain people happy, but everything proceeded as planned. Nothing changed. More teams tanked even. My proposal is just a free agency period where you can just there is no lottery, there is no draft order, and you can just sign players of any age, high school, 30 years old, Europe, for a period of time, and that will get rid of tanking, I think.
I like that idea a lot. And I think you also have to enable teams to pay them up to like a max salary.
I agree.
Because otherwise it actually helps the big market teams
Yeah, and
in a way that, because sneaker deals reward players going to certain markets, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Houston, that's kind of about it. Maybe Philly a little bit. But generally there's a handful of markets that sneaker companies will pay you more money. So if you were a rookie and you're like, well, everyone's going to offer me $10 million,
yeah.
but I can get an extra 15 if I go play for the Knicks, then I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
So you actually have to enable
Yeah, but
teams to say, no, we'll pay you $30 million.
yeah, and I think that corrects itself. Like in a cool scenario, the three one and done Bus Factory players could have been like Cam Reddish, Zion, and RJ, being like, "Yo, how awesome would it be if we stayed together and all played for the Knicks?" And the Knicks are like, "This is incredible. In order to get Zion, we'll sign the rest of you guys for the max." And we find out that RJ's a centrist, Zion gets hurt but looks awesome, and Cam is awesome when he's healthy, which is seldom. And then they can't really sign Weissman because they spent their money. And Dolan's like, "Listen, I spent my money." And then that's where Milwaukee comes in. It's like, "Oh, we'll pay for LaMelo because you guys spent all your money last year." It's going to be amazing.
Well, once you take the built-in advantage of a rookie contract out of the equation, they're generally not good deals.
Yeah.
If you had to pay them market value on like an auction type system, because as great as Zion's been, he's not that good yet. He's not that good of a passer. He's not that good of a defender. And to get Zion as a star might take 3 years. But if he was on the open market, you would have to pay him, say, $25 million a year for the first 4 years of his contract, in which point he might play like a superstar in year 3 and 4.
Yeah, this is so much strategy is involved in this, more than just like ping pong balls and then taking the best player off the board. I think this opens up so much more debate, so many more fun AM radio conversations and arguments. Like, this is awesome. And, you know, we always say, like, imagine a week. You have a week's period of free agent signings, and we make an event out of it. It's like the Knicks are holding an event at 6 p.m., and they make a whole presentation. Like, guess who we got?
And teams would make spectacular errors as well,
Yes.
which would also lower the price a bit, because
It fixes
you can't,
itself.
like, imagine if you screwed up and gave, sight unseen more or less, gave Andrew Wiggins a max contract.
Hey, there's
like,
teams that would.
how would you get out from under having an Andrew Wiggins max contract?
And teams would see that and copycat like they do in the normal draft, being like, "Ooh, they spent too much money on Wiggins, and Anthony Edwards reminds us of Wiggins, so maybe I'm not willing to go to $30 million a year."
But of course, it only takes one team to say,
Exactly.
no, this is our guy.
But there's only 29 teams, so
There's only 29 teams, and there's also only a couple guys who are really, really can't miss per year.
I think
you
Zion
can count them.
is probably the breaking point, right?
I mean, look, you've got Zion, you've got Anthony Davis, Kyrie, Ben Simmons. Those are kind of the
LeBron.
Karl Anthony Towns.
For sure.
But, those are the guys who I think have been ranked the highest out of
Luka Doncic.
Yeah. I would not even say Ayton is in that category.
No, he's not. He has bust potential. I thought Jaren Jackson Jr., but I might be wrong about that. I thought he was a sure thing. It's taking him a while. But I hear you. The top tier.
I would say,
sure
like,
things.
once a year, there's a guy you're like, all right, this guy's going to be a star. And it's not always right. But overall, it would be a very risky proposition for a team to go all in on like a guy who would normally go third or fourth in the draft. So I think it would be a really exciting way to revamp the draft. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, could be fun.
It gets the cookie stamp of approval.
Nice. That's all I was looking for. Rings, baby.
You got it. Approved.
Yeah. But it's so funny. Like, the biggest stickler of stubbornness, I think of the NCAA, because I think in 10 years we're going to see that as such an unjust system of not paying their players. And I think the meat industry, it's just like, well, we can't really change it because demand is how we've been doing it. In 10 years, we're going to be like, we should have changed that a long time ago.
It's weird when you realize that the creators of fake meat in some situations are like the companies that make meat.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's all market. They don't have feelings involved. They just are predicting trends.
Or like Chobani, it's like, we now do oat milk. It's like your whole thing was doing dairy.
Yeah. Yo, have you had oat milk yogurt? Is that good?
I have not had that. I've had oat milk ice cream.
Is it good?
It's okay.
That sounds nice.
It wasn't quite as good as I thought it would be.
Are you missing the
I
creaminess?
I had strawberry, and I think I had like their
deep
typical
cut.
sort of like oat flavored. No, I'm
Other
serious.
classic oat flavored ice cream.
No. I mean, it was the Oatly kind of oat ice cream.
I mean, to be honest, it sounds delicious.
It was fine.
Yeah,
It was a little oaty, to be frank. But yeah, I just got a thing of the Chobani extra creamy oat milk. It seems okay. I feel like I'm still Oatly though.
Have you had almond milk ice cream? Is it
probably?
Is it real? Does it exist?
I don't know. I think I've had most of the alternative milk ice creams at some point. A few of them are good.
Yeah.
The Van Leeuwen ones are solid. I would recommend those. The
yeah.
the black sesame one, a few other ones there are quite tasty.
They look awful, and they don't present well, but they're so tasty. The Van Leeuwen almond milk ones.
Yeah, those are really good. I can't say I'm all in on the Chobani. I think I'm still Oatly. I would put it ahead of inferior competitors like Planet Oat.
I've never even heard of these things.
I've tried them all.
Go off.
And look, I've been an Oatly loyalist
As we know.
since day one.
Stick to your day one Oatly OGs.
I'm going to stay low and keep firing. I'm going to build with my day ones. So yeah, Team Oatly over here.
Yeah.
But it's been missing from the supermarkets. And I don't know what it's like where you guys live, speaking to our beloved listeners. Mm-hmm. But even the supermarket around my house, there was no toilet paper. And I went over to the meat aisle. Empty, except for a couple like pig hooves. Like literally empty. All the chicken, all the beef, all the pork, except for pig feet. That was the only thing remaining. And I saw a guy kind of like picking it up and looking at it like, dare I? Like,
That's a tough
do I
one,
go?
man.
Do I go down the pig foot route? That was it.
A bunch of hooves.
I still don't understand what people are doing.
I know. I mean, panic is real. So, I always think people should articulate how they feel this way, whatever. I'm not even shaming them, but in the Lower East Side where I am, the Chinatown spot, the dollar spots still have everything, but I'm sure volume poopers are going to figure that out very soon. But the meat aisles are completely empty, and the fake meat is still surviving. I don't think the fake meat is going to catch on. It's sort of like those startups. Is fake meat more Casper than it is Warby Parker?
Ooh, that's a good point. Is it all media hype and
Do we like eating it?
Is it theoretical?
Yeah. Is it a market they're trying to create rather than a demand for the market?
That's a good point, because it kind of relies on people who want to eat meat, are craving the taste of meat, but don't morally or for health reasons want to eat it. And I would say that is a minimum of people who practice vegetarianism. Mm-hmm. It's like talking to people who have gone sober and being like, or are already sober, and be like, do you want a non-alcoholic beer? And they're like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I grew up eating what people call fake meat now, but just as food. So, my mom used to fry up a bunch of cool wheat glutens and soy products and seitan with like. Did
you go to Vegetarian Paradise?
Always. Like I grew up.
Man, VP2 by the Cage.
Yeah, like in Chinatown now it's like a Munchies Paradise spot, but there used to be a vegetarian spot on Mott Street I used to go to as a kid, and it was just food. I mean, it was Buddhist based, like there was no meat in there, but we went in there just to get food that tasted good, and my mom never framed it as vegetarian. She was like, that wheat gluten is very tasty, but I think you're right. The market they're trying to identify is pretty slim, because I always joke, like, you can't really love food to love fake meat. Like, it doesn't taste awesome yet. Maybe they'll get there, but it has to convince people now.
And you're also talking about very specific cuts of things, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you're a meat eater, how often are you eating ground beef?
Yeah, I haven't bought
probably
that
not that
months,
much. I don't know the last time I bought specifically ground beef. Like, maybe if you were going to make meatballs, you'd say, like, all right, let's go with, Beyond Meat. I'm going to make meatballs with spaghetti.
It's not
or I'm
the
going to
same.
make burgers. Maybe I'll try it. But it's not that frequent that you want ground beef anyway, even if you were a meat eater who was trying to abandon their sinful ways.
Unethical ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm still waiting for a dumpling spot to start making awesome dumpling creations with Beyond Meat or veggie ground, because that seems to be the option. People haven't figured out veggie steaks yet. Like, I think Beyond Impossible has said that they're not even starting that process of trying to create anything other than ground beef, because the burger is their objective. Everything else seems like too hard.
I've been trying to get beyond pig's feet for ages. I just keep being confronted by the real thing.
Is burrata nose to tail? Okay, I was thinking about this the other day, because I believe me and you were talking about lasagna slices. Mm-hmm. And I'm like...
I don't remember that, but like, sure.
It sounds like something we would do.
Yeah.
Because ricotta is the byproduct of mozzarella. And when you put them into one bite, is that like the complete process of the thing? I guess you would have to drink the water. I'm
not sure.
Yeah, there's no answer.
I do know that there's curd involved in this.
Yeah, it's the mozzarella.
And that you can take... Yeah, it's like you can make burrata or stracciatella or mozzarella from the same thing, kind of.
Mm. And there's the whey is the ricotta. Do I have that right?
I don't even know if there's ricotta involved. I think it's actual like mozzarella curds, and then you're
right.
creating it in certain ways. I think ricotta is totally different, and that's made by like straining stuff through like a cheesecloth and whatever.
You're right. I'm wrong. Yes.
Another cookies classic.
When I was like, the Cooper Union wealth was generated by the making glue the old-fashioned way, I believe. And I'm getting everything wrong today. And they stumbled upon the Jell-O making process and like quadrupled their profits.
Oh, okay. We're back to hooves.
Yes, this is hoof related.
Hoof talk.
Yeah.
Young hoof.
yeah. Hoof. But yeah, the veggie meat is still gettable in these tough times. If you want Beyond patties, I just bought 2 of them for $7.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, because they're not. If you eat your feelings in a time like this, you don't want synthetic soy protein.
I would just appreciate if people went to the supermarket and bought the things they need and then went home. And I get that people want to avoid multiple trips to the supermarket because it is a little stressful. You're in there, you're around people, you're touching things that have been touched by others. But like, stop hoarding, weirdos.
That's where peer pressure comes in. I think as a community, we just have to be like, you don't need that much toilet paper unless you're buying all the ground beef, and then you can have all the Charmin you want because you're gonna need it. But yeah, I went to the supermarket yesterday to do shopping for maybe a week. I spaced it out for maybe that long, and I was going for all the fresh produce, and I was like, oh, there's broccoli, there's good-looking chives, there's good-looking spinach. And I realized everyone was just buying like mac and cheese. And I'm like, oh, am I doing this wrong? I'm making a mistake here. And I'm like, I don't think we're at that point where we need to stockpile like dried foods that we don't even want to eat. But I had a wealth of broccoli to choose from and no mac and cheese.
I don't think it is unreasonable to say, buy a few dried bags of beans, buy a few things that are shelf stable.
Definitely.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I bought some ramen.
Yeah, I think that's fine to do.
Yeah, but it's wild to try to keep a level head, which I am not good at, and being like, we're okay. This is okay. I can go to the supermarket in 3 days if I need to, and then seeing everyone buying all the Oatly and be like, I need Oatly.
Yeah, there was no Oatly. It's like, this is bullshit. Like Johnny Come Latelys.
Where's the
Meanwhile, I'm over here, Johnny Come Oatly.
You're the Spike Lee of the supermarket. You're like, where's my special VIP Oatly entrance?
Someone walks by, stomps on my feet wearing a Planet Oat jersey.
You're gonna drag me in cuffs like my boy Oatly?
Shout out to Charles Oatly. Basketball oat milk related blog by Nicole. Not blog, Instagram account.
I love that. Is it also Patrick doing your blog
That
account?
I think it's just really about oat milk.
Oat milk is a vibe.
Sure is, Kuo. Sure is.
Done and done.
Okay, cookies. We're done here.
Big hoof. Cookies.
Young hoof cookies.